An act to discontinue in such manner and for such time as are therein mentioned the landing and discharging, lading or shipping of goods, wares, and merchandise at the town and within the harbor of Boston in the province of Massachusetts Bay in North America. Whereas dangerous commotions and insurrections have been fomented and raised in the town of Boston, in the province of Massachusetts Bay in New England, by diverse ill-affected persons, to the subversion of His Majesty's government and to the utter destruction of the public peace and good order of the said town, in which commotions and insurrections, certain valuable cargoes of tea, being the property of the East India Company, and on board certain vessels lying within the bay or harbor of Boston, were seized and destroyed. And whereas in the present condition of the said town and harbor, the commerce of His Majesty's subjects cannot be safely carried on there, nor the customs payable to His Majesty duly collected, and it is therefore expedient that the officers of His Majesty's customs should be forthwith removed from the said town. May it please you, Majesty, that it may be enacted, and be it enacted by the King's most excellent Majesty, by and with the advise and consent of the Lords spiritual and temporal, and commons in this present Parliament assembled, and by the authority of the same, that from and after the 1st day of June, 1774, it shall not be lawful for any person or persons whatsoever to lade or put, or cause or procure to be laden or put off, or from any quay, wharf, or other place within the said town of Boston, or in or upon any part of the shore of the bay commonly called the harbor of Boston, between a certain headland or point called Nahant Point on the eastern side of the entrance into the said bay, and a certain headland or point called Alderton Point on the western side of the entrance into the said bay, or in or upon any island, creek, landing place, bank, or other place within the said bay or headlands, into any ship, vessel, lighter, boat, or bottom, any goods, wares, or merchandise whatsoever to be transported or carried into any other country, province, or place whatsoever, or into any other part of the said province of Massachusetts Bay in New England, or to take up, discharge, or lay on land, or cause or procure to be taken up, discharged, or laid on land, within the said town, or in or upon any of the places aforesaid, out of any boat, lighter, ship, vessel, or bottom, any goods, wares, or merchandise whatsoever to be brought from any other country, province, or place, or any other part of the said province of Massachusetts Bay in New England upon the pain of forfeiture of the said goods, wares, and merchandise, and of the said boat, lighter, ship, vessel, or other bottom, into which the same shall be put, or out of which the same shall be taken, and of the guns, ammunition, tackle, furniture, or stores, into which the same shall be put, or out of which the same shall be taken, and of the guns, ammunition, tackle, furniture, and stores in or belonging to the same. And if any such goods, wares, or merchandise shall within the said town, or in any places aforesaid, be laden or taken in from the shore into any barge, hoy, lighter, wherry, or boat, to be carried on board any ship or vessel outward bound to any other country or province or other part of said province of the Massachusetts Bay in New England, or to be laden or taken into such barge, hoy, lighter, wherry, or out of any ship or vessel coming and arriving from any other country or province or other part of the said province of the Massachusetts Bay in New England, such barge, hoy, lighter, wherry, or boat shall be forfeited and lost. And be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid, that if any wharfinger or keeper of any wharf, crane or quay, or their servants, or any of them, shall take up or land, or knowingly suffer to be taken up or landed, or shall ship off, or suffer to be waterborne, at or from any of the aforesaid wharfs, cranes, or quays, any such goods, wares, or merchandise, in every such case, all and every such wharfinger and keeper of such wharf, crane or quay, and every person whatsoever who shall be assisting, or otherwise concerned in the shipping or in the loading or putting on board any boat or other vessel for that purpose, or in the unshipping of such goods, wares, and merchandise, or to whose hands the same shall knowingly come after the loading, shipping, or unshipping therefore, shall forfeit and lose treble the value thereof, to be computed at the highest price which such sort of goods, wares, and merchandise shall bear at the place where such offense shall be committed, at the time when the same shall be so committed, together with the vessel and boats, and all the horses, cattle, and carriages whatsoever made use of in the shipping, unshipping, landing, removing, carriage, or conveyance of any of the aforesaid goods, wares, and merchandise. And be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid, that if any ship or vessel shall be moored or lie at anchor, or be seen hovering within the said bay, described and bounded as aforesaid, or within 1 league from the said bay so described, or the said headlands, or any of the islands lying between or within the same, it shall and may be lawful for any admiral, chief commander, or commissioned officer of His Majesty's fleet, or for any officer of His Majesty's customs, to compel such a ship or vessel to depart to some other port or harbor, or to such station as the said officer shall appoint, and to use such force for that purpose as shall be found necessary. And if such ship or vessel shall not depart accordingly within 6 hours after notice for that purpose given by such person aforesaid, such ship or vessel, together with all the goods laden on board thereon, and all the guns, ammunition, tackle, and furniture, shall he forfeit and lost, whether bulk shall have been broken or not. Provided always that nothing in this act contained shall extend or be construed to extend to any military or other stores for His Majesty's use, or to the ships or vessels whereon the same shall be laden, which shall be commissioned by and in the immediate pay of His Majesty, his heirs, and successors, nor to any fuel or victual brought coastways from any part of the continent of America, for the necessary use and sustenance of the inhabitants of the said town of Boston, provided the vessel wherein the same are to be carried shall be duly furnished with a cocket and let pass, after having been duly searched by the proper officers of His Majesty's Customs at Marblehead, in the port of Salem, and in the said province of Massachusetts Bay. And the same officer of His Majesty's Customs be also put on board the said vessel, who is hereby authorized to go on board and proceed with the said vessel, together with a sufficient number of persons properly armed for his defense, to the said town or harbor of Boston. Nor to any ships or vessels which may happen to be within the said harbor of Boston on or before the 1st day of June, 1774, and may have either laden or taken on board, or be there with intent to load or to take on board, or to land or discharge any goods, wares, and merchandise, provided the said ships and vessels do depart the said harbor within 14 days after the 1st day of June, 1774. And be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid that all seizures, penalties, and forfeitures inflicted by this act shall be made and prosecuted by any admiral, chief commander, or commissioned officer of His Majesty's fleet or ships of war, or by the officers of His Majesty's customs, or some of them, or by some other person deputed or authorized by warrant from the Lord High Treasurer or commissioners of His Majesty's Treasury, for the time being, and by no other person whatsoever. And if any such officer or other person authorized or aforesaid shall be directly or indirectly take or receive any bribe or reward, or connive at such lading or unlading, or shall make or commence any collusive seizure, information, or agreement for that purpose, or shall do any other act whatsoever whereby the goods, wares, or merchandise prohibited as aforesaid shall be suffered to pass either inwards or outwards, or whereby the forfeitures and penalties inflicted by this act may be evaded, every such offender shall forfeit the sum of £500 for every such offense, and shall become incapable of any office or employment, civil or military. And every person who shall give, offer, or promise any such bribe or reward, or shall contract, agree, or treat with any person so authorized aforesaid to commit any such offense, shall forfeit the sum of £50. And be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid that the forfeitures and penalties inflicted by this act shall and may be prosecuted, sued for, and recovered, and be divided, paid, and applied in like manner as other penalties and forfeitures inflicted by any act or acts of Parliament relating to the trade or revenues of the British colonies or plantations in America, are directed to be prosecuted, sued for, or recovered, divided, paid, and applied by two several acts of Parliament, the one passed in the 4th year of His present Majesty, intituled an Act for granting certain duties in the British colonies and plantations in America, for continuing, amending, and making perpetual an Act passed in the 6th year of the reign of His late Majesty King George II, intituled an Act for the better securing and encouraging trade of His Majesty's sugar colonies in America, for applying the produce of such duties and of the duties to arise by the virtue of the said Act towards defraying the expense of defending, protecting, and securing the said colonies and plantations, for explaining an act made in the 25th year of the reign of King Charles II, intituled an Act for the encouragement of the Greenland and Eastland trades, and for the better securing of plantation trade, and for altering and disallowing several drawbacks on exports from this kingdom, and more effectually preventing the clandestine conveyance of goods to and from the said colonies and plantations, and improving and securing the trade between the same and Great Britain. The other passed in the 8th year of His present Majesty's reign, intituled an Act for the more easy and effectual recovery of the penalties and forfeitures inflicted by the Acts of Parliament relating to the trade or revenues of the British colonies and plantations in America. And be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid that every charter party bill of loading and other contract for consigning, shipping, or carrying any goods, wares, and merchandise whatsoever to or from the said town of Boston, or any part of the bay or harbor thereof, described as aforesaid, which have been made or entered into, or which shall be made or entered into, so long as this act shall remain in full force, relating to any ship which shall arrive at the said town or harbor after the 1st day of June 1774, shall be, and the same and hereby declared to be, utterly void to all intents and purposes whatsoever. And be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid that whenever it shall be made to appear to His Majesty in His Privy Council that peace and obedience to the laws shall be so far restored in the said town of Boston that the trade of Great Britain may be safely carried on there, and His Majesty's customs duly collected, and His Majesty in His Privy Council shall judge the same to be true, it shall and may be lawful for His Majesty, by proclamation or order of council, to assign and appoint the extent, bounds, and limits of the port or harbor of Boston, and of every creek or haven within the same, or in the islands within the precinct thereof, and also to assign and appoint such and so many open places, quays, and wharfs within the said harbor, creeks, havens, and islands for the landing, discharging, lading, and shipping of goods, as His Majesty, His heirs, or successors shall judge necessary and expedient, and also to appoint such and so many officers of the customs therein, as His Majesty shall think fit, after which it shall be lawful for any person or persons to lade or put off from, or discharge and land upon such wharfs, quays, and places so appointed within the said harbor, and none other, any goods, wares, or merchandise whatsoever. Provided always that if any goods, wares, or merchandise shall be laden or put off from, or discharged, or landed upon any other place than the quays, wharfs, or places so to be appointed, the same, together with the ships, boats, and other vessels employed therein, and the horses or other cattle and carriages used to convey the same, and the person or persons concerned or assisting therein, or to whose hands the same shall knowingly come, shall suffer all the forfeitures and penalties imposed by this or any other act on the illegal shipping or landing of goods. Provided also, and it is hereby declared and enacted, that nothing herein contained shall extend or be construed to enable His Majesty to appoint such port, harbor, creeks, quays, wharfs, places, or officers in the said town of Boston, or in the said bay or islands, until it shall be sufficiently appear to His Majesty that full satisfaction hath been made by or on behalf of the inhabitants of the said town of Boston to the United Company of Merchants of England, trading to the East Indies, for the damages sustained by the said company by the destruction of their goods sent to the said town of Boston on board certain ships or vessels, as aforesaid, and until it shall be certified to His Majesty in council by the governor or lieutenant governor of the said province that reasonable satisfaction hath been made to the officers of His Majesty's revenue and others who suffered by the riots and insurrections above mentioned in the months of November and December in the year 1773 and in the month of January in the year 1774. And be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid that if any action or suit shall be commenced either in Great Britain or America against any person or persons for anything done in pursuance of this Act of Parliament, the defendant or defendants in such action or suits may plead the general issue and give the said act and the special matter in evidence, and that the same was done in pursuance and by the authority of this act. And if it shall appear so to have been done, the jury shall find for the defendant or defendants. And if the plaintiff shall be non-suited or discontinue his action after the defendant or defendants shall have appeared, or if judgment shall be given upon any verdict or demurrer against the plaintiff, the defendant or defendants shall recover treble costs and have the likely remedy for the same as defendants have in other cases by law.
Open.